I understand what it's worth doing when the industry is canceling one black guy. I know what happens when they are going to elevate another.
I would love to work with Eddie. Eddie won't return my calls.
Listen up. Tyler Perry might be running mega studios and stacking billion-dollar checks, but Katt Williams just flipped the script. He says Tyler's scared. And the reason? None other than Eddie Murphy. Yeah, you heard that right. One of the loudest names in Black Hollywood is allegedly feeling the heat from a man who barely even pops out anymore. But what kind of pressure does Eddie really bring that would have someone like Tyler on edge? Katt says this ain't about fame, it's about real influence. Eddie's got that legacy energy. You can't buy it, fake it, or control it. It's earned. This isn't just some industry squabble. It feels like the whole machine is starting to crack open. Behind all that glam and glitter, something serious is going on. And Eddie, he might just be the spark that lights the whole place up. Let's be real. When we talk icons, Eddie Murphy sits at the top of the food chain. The man didn't just succeed, he rewrote the rules. That's why Tyler's alleged fear hits so hard. Katt ain't saying this is about ego. He's talking about a man who walked into Hollywood and straight up changed the game. Eddie didn't rely on no hush-hush deals or powerful backers. He came up the hard way, off pure talent. At 19, he already had SNL on fire when the show was practically flatlining. From 48 Hours to Coming to America to Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie didn't just drop classics, he became the culture. Now imagine someone like that stepping back into an industry full of fake smiles and power plays. Folks start to panic, no lie. Every time Eddie hit the screen, the whole vibe shifted. That's why, according to Katt, Tyler Perry's feeling the pressure. Because Eddie's not someone you can clone, control, or sideline. He's a once-in-a-lifetime force. Now don't get it twisted. Tyler Perry's grind is nothing to sneeze at. The man built an empire out of nothing. He flipped gospel-driven stage plays into a whole billion-dollar media machine. And Medea, that was strategy. A gun-toting granny with life lessons in between laughs. It worked. But here's the difference. Where Tyler's got the money, Eddie's got the legacy. That's not something you measure with streaming numbers or box office hits. Either you have it or you don't. And Eddie's got it by the truckload. Here's where it gets real cold. Eddie ain't even acknowledging Tyler. He's not beefing, not refusing scripts. He's just ghosting. And that silence, that's not disrespect. That's a message. Katt says Eddie moves in his own lane. He never played by Hollywood's rules. He made his own. No shady deals, no chasing clout. Eddie does what he wants, and people respect it. Meanwhile, Tyler's got the studios, the shows, the streaming deals, all locked into a formula. But Eddie? He got something Perry can't buy, respect that echoes without saying a single word. Eddie's realness cuts through everything. Even the biggest names in the biz gotta sit up when he enters the room. And this isn't just jealousy, it goes deeper. It's about identity. Eddie never had to switch up who he was. No masks, no fake image, just him being him. But Tyler? A lot of folks feel like he's been hiding behind the characters he creates, that the roles he writes don't really reflect him, like he's been playing it safe, keeping things tidy for the Hollywood gatekeepers. Here's the wild part. When Eddie walks into a room, all that structure Tyler built, it don't mean nothing. Eddie don't need costumes, long-winded moral speeches, or dramatic performances to leave a mark. All he needs is a mic, a one-liner, maybe just a look. And suddenly, the whole energy changes. That's the kind of silent power that's got Tyler nervous. Because if anyone can flip the script without even touching a script, it's Eddie Murphy. Cool, calm, untouchable. Katt Williams says that fear isn't random. He claims there's a side of Tyler that folks haven't seen, a side that's been carefully hidden. Now yeah, this might sound like some wild gossip, but Katt swears this goes way deeper. He's not just throwing out drama for views, he's pointing to a real divide between the wholesome image Tyler puts out and what's really happening behind the scenes. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, Katt drops another bomb. He claims Tyler ain't just hiding, he's allegedly pulling strings behind the scenes, steering people, limiting opportunities, and even warning male actors not to associate with Jaguar Wright. Like, what? The story's far from over, and if Katt's claims hold weight, we might be looking at one of the most quietly intense showdowns Hollywood's seen in a while. 40 years deep in the game, and Eddie Murphy's still standing strong, even with the cold shoulder from the system. Never got that Oscar, but guess what? His name still echoes through the halls of Hollywood like thunder. While Eddie kept creating, grinding, and brushing off every snub thrown his way, Tyler Perry slid into a different lane, the industry's definition of safe black success. But this goes way beyond Diddy, bro. The spotlight's getting hotter, and more names are slipping into the shadows. You know who else was under investigation? That's right, Mr. Handshakes and Awards himself. He's got the stages, the shiny trophies, the applause. But the real question is, what did it cost to get there? Behind the standing ovations and smiling press photos, some of the very people who helped build Tyler's empire are pulling back hard. Take Monique, for example. She killed her role in Precious and walked away with an Oscar. She should have been unstoppable after that. But what happened? Her phone stopped ringing. Why? Because she said no to doing international promo for free. She wasn't contracted for it. She stood firm. And just like that, they labeled her difficult. All behind closed doors. And according to Monique, that label didn't just float, it was planted. She says Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Lee Daniels didn't just turn their backs, they allegedly teamed up to shut her out. That's the kind of silence that screams sabotage. Monique claims Perry was pushing fake stories to studio heads, calling her hard to work with, painting her as the problem. He later admitted, in private, that the story wasn't true. But did he fix it publicly? Nope. He stayed quiet. And that silence, it cost her everything. Before the fallout, Monique was bringing in $2 to $3 million a year. After the smear campaign, it all dried up. We're talking tens of millions gone. Not over bad behavior, but over someone's lie that no one ever corrected. But the money wasn't even the worst part. Monique says one of the deepest wounds came from Oprah herself. She had trusted Oprah, confided in her about family trauma and painful past experiences. And how did Oprah respond? By inviting Monique's estranged parents onto her show. No warning, no heads up, just chasing ratings, dressed up as compassion. When the backlash came, Oprah's apology was cold and clipped. If I've done anything to offend Monique, I apologize. That ain't an apology, that's a shrug. And then there's the moment that really shook things up. During the Precious promo run, Monique says Tyler Perry pulled her aside in a private room surrounded by his people. But Monique didn't come alone. She brought security. And the second that door shut, Perry's team reportedly vanished like they'd seen it all before. According to her, Perry tried to pressure her into more unpaid promo, promising a future payout of $3 to $8 million. When she held her ground, that pressure turned punitive. Even Oprah's former makeup artist, Reggie Wells, allegedly overheard Oprah saying, "She'll never get a check from me. Monique ain't out here looking for revenge. She wants the truth. She wants Tyler and Oprah to say in front of everybody, in the same spotlight they used to stain her name, what they already admitted in the dark. They were wrong. They lied. And those lies cost her everything. And Monique's not alone anymore. She was one of the first to speak out. And now others are stepping up. The fear is still real, especially for black women in the industry. But the silence is cracking. Tashina Arnold, a queen in this business, decades of work, always respected, always real. She's been opening up too, talking about being underpaid, overworked, overlooked, not just for herself, but for all the black women out here holding it down, delivering performances, anchoring shows, and still being pushed aside. And here's where it gets messy. Tyler Perry, the same man who built his career off telling stories about black women, is now the one whose name keeps coming up when folks talk about unfair treatment. That's the bitter truth. For years, Perry was seen as the man who gave black actresses a shot when no one else would, the one creating space, opening doors, changing the game. But now, that image is starting to crumble. The very women who helped make his work matter, they're speaking up. They're tired of the recycled pain, the trauma-centered stories, the one-note roles, always playing the bitter mom, the broken wife, the woman who suffers but never grows. This ain't about getting screen time anymore. It's about dignity. These actresses are done pretending trauma equals greatness. They're tired of being praised for playing pain while the men behind the scenes walk away with the credit, the checks, and the glory. And right here, this is where Katt Williams steps back in. He ain't standing alone anymore. And people are starting to whisper, is Tyler Perry about to be the one tossed under the bus to soften the blow for everybody else? His name's been popping up in more and more headlines lately, and not in a good way. It's starting to feel like Hollywood is backing away, like the same machine that once guarded him is now slowly pushing him out. And in this town, that's usually the first sign someone's getting set up to take the fall. Even Ice Cube, who normally plays it cool when it comes to industry politics, dropped a warning. He said people are very polarized right now and folks are scared to speak up. And when Ice Cube says people are scared, that means something real heavy is going on behind those velvet ropes. Because Hollywood, it don't run on talent alone. Nah, it runs on silence, secret handshakes, and the kinds of favors that never show up on paper. Deals made behind closed doors, with locks on them. But now, those doors, they're starting to crack open. And if that rumored footage from certain elite private events is real, Tyler might not be walking away from this with his clean image intact. If even half of what's being whispered behind the scenes turns out true, that spotlight Perry built his empire in could turn into a searchlight. And you know who warned us long ago? Katt Williams. He already told us, laid it all out plain, told us who was really running the show behind the scenes. Most folks laughed him off back then. But now, they're running those old clips back like prophecy. With the pressure turning up, people aren't watching Perry's work to celebrate it anymore. They're scrutinizing it, looking closer, asking the tough questions. What was he really showing us all these years? Because when someone's crowned the voice of black stories, but keeps recycling the same pain-filled plot lines, people start to notice. Tyler Perry's empire? It's been running on a loop, story after story, show after show, built on trauma, pain, and broken families. And finally, folks are asking, why is it always like this? What is it about black life that's being shown on repeat like there's only one kind of experience? Take Diary of a Mad Black Woman, a fan favorite, sure, but peel back the layers. Steve Harris played Charles McCarter, a rich, powerful lawyer who blindsided his wife, Helen, with betrayal and abuse. Double life, cold heart, same formula. We've seen this character before, too many times. It's not just the pain, it's the pattern. And then there's Blair Underwood, not just another actor. This man's been repping for Black Hollywood since the 80s. From LA Law to major film roles, Blair's seen it all. He recently opened up about how deep this issue really runs. Back in the day, black actors had to fight tooth and nail just for a shot at screen time. The scripts, thin, the characters, flat, and the stories, always stuck in the same tired loop. Blair talked about sitting down with Sidney Poitier, one of the few black icons Hollywood ever gave true flowers to, and realizing how narrow the path really was. In the 80s and 90s, even the most talented black actors were reading for the same recycled roles. Didn't matter how long you'd been in the game, if you were black, you were still playing some variation of the same part. Yeah, Blair and Denzel Washington broke through, but even they had to fight to escape the box. And here's the part that stings. The same types of roles Blair and others fought to move past, they kept showing up years later in Tyler Perry's scripts. That's what's got people heated. After everything actors like Blair, Denzel, and Poitier struggled to overcome, those one-dimensional roles, those pain-soaked storylines, Tyler brought them right back, wrapped in a new package, but the same old pain, over and over. And now, the industry's side-eyeing everything, from the stories he tells to the way he treats those who speak up. The curtain's being pulled back, and what's behind it ain't matching the image that got sold to the world. Why is it always the women getting hurt, humiliated, or punished in these stories? Why do the villains all seem like the same recycled character, just with a different name? Film after film, it's the same vibe. And now there's a theory floating around that's got people raising eyebrows. maybe Perry ain't just writing drama. Maybe he's writing from experience, or at the very least from what he's seen up close. And that's what's making folks uncomfortable. Because suddenly, these plots don't feel like fiction anymore. They feel personal. Too personal. What if those characters weren't just characters? What if they were reflections? Think about it. When you stack up all the repetitive abuse, the gaslighting, the broken women on screen, and then line that up with what's being whispered behind the scenes, it's hard not to ask, have we been watching more than just entertainment this whole time? Maybe what we've really been watching is a man hiding in plain sight, using the screen as a mirror, or worse, a shield. And now, with all these stories bubbling up and folks finally speaking out, that mask might be sliding right off his face. That's it for this one. If you made it this far, drop a comment below. We want to know what you think. Is Hollywood finally pulling the curtain back on Tyler Perry? Or is this just the first crack in something way deeper? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust us, the shade ain't stopping anytime soon.